Hi fellow Thomas fans, sorry this is taking so long, but welcome to another edition of Sodorcast, the show where all topics are about this fella right here, Thomas. And in this edition I'm going to be reviewing Series 2. That's Classic Thomas with the Model Era Series 2, which first broadcast in 1986 here in the UK with 26 episodes, Ringo Starr returning as the narrator. And giving us such story adaptations this time as Thomas Percy and Nicole, Thomas Percy and the Post Train. No, I think that's in Series 3 actually. Yeah, it is. Sorry, Percy's Predicament, Edward's Exploit, Cows. And yes, the series introduces us to some stories written by Christopher Awdry, the Reverend Wilbert Awdry's son. And in this series, we're introduced to such new characters as Duck, the Great Western Engine, Donald and Douglas, the Scottish Twin Engines, Oliver, no, that's not until Series 3, sorry, Daisy, the Diesel Rail Car, Devious Diesel, Trevor the Traction Engine, Boko, and the Tank Engine Twins, Bill and Ben, and Harold the Helicopter. All these characters are introduced to us for the first time in this series. Now, with 26 episodes to go through the stories of, I'm not gonna actually go through all the episodes here, because that would simply just take too long. So I'm gonna highlight a few of my personal favourites. And those will be Pop Goes to Diesel. This is where Diesel first arrives on Sodor and takes an immediate dislike to Duck after Duck tricks him into taking trucks that he doesn't need. So he tells lies about Duck and gets him sent away. After the trucks sing a song about him. Thomas Percy and Nicole. The season opener in which Thomas and Percy have an argument after Percy accidentally spills or makes coal fall all over Thomas, so they fall out over that. Guys, that's a trivial matter. You don't need to argue over it, and it can easily be cleaned. Cows. Now this is a funny one. Gordon and Henry shame Edward for not being able to deal with a cow, but when they come face to face with the same problem, they're too scared to move, and they say it's out of fear of hurting the cow. Okay, but they were clearly afraid of the cow, after boasting that they would wish steam at it and make it move. Whatever you say, guys. Percy takes the plunge. Now, this is where Bill and Ben make their grand appearance, but we're not introduced to them in this episode. They're just some engines. And he's boasting about the events of Percy's Promise, which in the books actually takes place before this story, but doesn't actually happen till a season later in the TV show timeline. So he's boasting about a future event going by the TV show timeline, which then makes you wonder why this episode wasn't in series 3. So, yeah. Because then that makes Percy's Promise, which we'll get to in series 3, by definition on the series timeline, a prequel story. So, the Diesel. Now this is the episode in which we meet Boko for the first time, as Bill and Ben try to trick him into giving his trucks back. Well, thinking he's a Diesel. Okay. Now, I've already mentioned Pop Goes for Diesel. But what about the other 2 stories that make up that trilogy of episodes in this series? Well, okay. We'll talk about A Close Shave, which is the last story in that trilogy. No, sorry. What about Dirty Work? That's the middle part of the trilogy. And this is Doc working at Epwood Station until the matter of the name-calling rumour is settled. And in A Close Shave, after Doc has an accident which causes him to crash into a barber shop at the end of the line. Come on, what kind of barber sets a shop at the end of a railway line? You're just asking for trains to come crashing through your walls if you do that. Come on. The matter's cleared, Diesel's been sent away, and Duck is invited back to the yard. Oh, I almost forgot about that one. Okay, now. Brake Van is our introduction to Donald and Douglas, the twin engines, as they arrive from Scotland to help the Fat Controller and end up causing a mishap, which almost gets them sent away, which leads us into the deputation, which actually provides an ending to that story, as the engines elect Percy to be their deputation to go and talk to the Fat Controller about letting both of the twins stay. So, yeah, You can't have one part of the story without the other. So what about our introduction to Duckbo? Well, I'm glad you asked, because well, am I? I've actually forgotten what that episode's called. So we'll leave that out now. I should bring the DVD case over if I'm going to highlight my personal favourite episodes from the series. My fault. But, well, I can't remember the episode's title. The plot is this. Duck arrives to help build a new harbour on the island, and Percy is offered the job of helping him, which he graciously accepts. That is basically the plot of that one. And the last one I actually highlighted was Edward's exploit. Now, this story actually involves Edward out on a job in the pouring rain, and his side rods break off. Or his coupling breaks loose, or whatever, and they have to take off his side rods, so he has to function as an old-fashioned engine. Now, after all this, I bet you're actually wondering why I didn't include Old Iron as a personal highlight of an episode. Because in that episode, the bigger engines, i.e. James, Gordon and Henry, complain about Edward for being too slow and clanking about like a lot of old iron. So Thomas and Percy, out of indignance, bet the big engines that Edward could beat them in a race any day. And as it happens, James then becomes a runaway train and Edward has to chase after him, proving once and for all that Edward is still a really useful engine. Okay, so overall though, this series is a good series, and it is sadly the last one narrated by Ringo Starr before he moved on to focus on his solo music career. So guys, what do you think of Thomas and Friends Series 2? Let me know in the comments below. In the next episode, I'll be reviewing Series 3. The first series to have Michelangelos as the narrator. Until then though, if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching. You're a really useful audience, and have us a magical time.